Battlegrounds is fast approaching its full release. It will be leaving early access and fully releasing on PC, as well as entering the console jungle soon on Xbox, potentially PlayStation in the future too. That's all well and good, but the question I have for you today is this: what will the game look like in 12 months time? I'm not just talking about graphics here, so what will have changed, what will have been added? I've got some ideas in my head for what I think PUBG as a game will be like in a year from now, and I thought that I'd share those ideas with you now. Let's start simple first. I think we have to expect that in 12 months time a few key gameplay elements will have been improved, such as the overall performance and netcode of the game. We know this is a bit of a stinging point right now, but 12 months down the line I have to assume that there will have been big improvements in this sector, at least I hope so. With new maps, which we'll get onto shortly, we can hope that they'll be made from the ground up to be more efficient and optimized. Fingers crossed we'll be playing the game at 120 frames per second constant if we've got a rig that's good enough. Performance should be a massive priority, as should improving hit reg and netcode. I think some basic gameplay mechanics will also be improved upon too. What about being able to use boosters or bandages in a moving car while you're a passenger? Of course. I know that's something that they've mentioned in the past. I imagine that far down the line something like that could be implemented. I would also like to see improved destruction, or maybe just actual bullet penetration. I think leveling of entire buildings is very unrealistic and it will hit optimizations and servers hard, but I think if I'm shooting at a wooden door or a shack, the bullets shouldn't just be damaging the wood, they should be going through. Right now it's either an on or off state and it needs some refinement. These wooden shacks here, for example, I reckon that you should be able to wallbang those for some cool and interesting tactical plays. Is that something we're going to see down the line? I hope so. Now what about adding a practice range or a target range? How good would it be to have a range that you could head into, much like the starting island say, where you can test all of the guns and fire at targets on a range, even practice your crouch jumping, grenades, you name it, you'd be able to give it a go in the target range. One major complaint I see from new players is that they don't get to use weapons enough to practice with them. So it would be great if you had moving targets as well as a range to properly get an idea for bullet speed and drop on the snipers. I think having a basic practice range isn't all that impossible, to be honest. It wouldn't be too difficult to put it in a basic area. In fact, they've got their own in-house one because they've showed it off when they first gave us a glimpse of the vaulting mechanic. Speaking of vaulting, that will definitely be coming in 12 months time. In the next few weeks in fact, they're deploying an improved movement mechanic including vaulting to the test environment, and they want at least a month's worth of testing. In a few months from now, we may have a full vaulting system implemented into the game, and perhaps in 12 months time we'll have improved movement mechanics like rolling and peeking while prone, for example. And speaking of vaulting, one thing that will make life easier for the team is building a map from the ground up with vaulting in mind, and they're doing just that. There are currently 2 maps in development that I think will be released in the next 6 months. First, we've got the desert map. We've actually seen a few screenshots of this, so we can already get a feel for how it's going to look. The second map is meant to be a snowy map, and that one is a bit further away in development. That being said, they're aiming to test the new desert map in the next month or so, and you have to assume that the snow map would be done no longer than 6 months after that. It's possible that in 12 months time the game will have 3, maybe even 4 maps to choose from. How will that affect the game though? Will it split the player base and make some maps harder to find games on in matchmaking? Only time will tell. To make that system easier, the game will need a brand new UI, and that's something that Bluehole are already working on. The front end needs some work, it could be a bit easier and clearer in places, but also the endgame UI could do with a few additions. How about having a bit more information on what players you damaged and who damaged you after you die or win? Right now it just shows your kills, score, hit points, etc, but how much better would it be if that was a more in-depth breakdown of everything that happened during that particular game? Maybe this is pushing it a little bit, but perhaps a scaled down heat map of where you got your kills. That would be kind of cool. We already know that they're working on improving the stats and leaderboard section, and that down the line the game wants ranked matchmaking in place. Technically, the game already does this. It tries to matchmake you against people of similar level on the leaderboards, but what about a proper CSGO style ranked matchmaking You gain ranks the more that you play and win or do well, and you get given a rank and the game will try and match you against players of that same rank. The main difference from the current system is that you'll get a visible rank, which is a badge. Perhaps even a casual mode could be here as well, to split up the people who are just a little bit more keen. Casual and competitive matchmaking, for instance. When you just want to jump into a game as fast as possible with a nice mix of players, boom, you hit casual and queue. But when you want to see if you can improve your rank and go up against similarly skilled opponents for a bit of a challenge, hit competitive, and you'll know that's what you're going to get. Moving on, Bluehole have expressed that they've considered kill cams in the solo games. When you die as a solo player, it will show you a replay of who killed you. That could be pretty interesting. I know that there have been times that I've died and I'd love to have known how it happened or where it was from. That's something that could really improve the solo experience. Of course, it won't affect the result there much because you're already dead. But in duos and squads, this isn't really possible and it shouldn't be allowed because you could communicate information to your squad mates who are still alive. That being said though, the devs are already testing a 3D replay system which could be amazing if they can get it to work. Imagine playing a game, finishing it, and then being able to download the replay of that game and see yourself, enemies, all replayed like a CSGO demo from any angle or speed or point of view. Right now, I'm not sure how far ahead they are on something like that, but in 12 months' time, hey, we could be seeing that in the game as a standard feature. And that could massively improve the overall experience as well, because those players cheating will be almost certainly found out even if they bypassed the anti-cheat. I also anticipate new game modes. Previously, they talked about wanting a competitive 5 versus 5 mode. Not entirely sure how that will work, but I think a few faster, smaller game modes could be popular, perhaps a much smaller map with less players and faster circles as a secondary option. Combine that with mod support, which will almost certainly be out there before we reach another 12 months down the line. So with mod support, the possibilities are endless, especially as the game runs on Unreal Engine 4. We could have fully blown mods like, say, a World War II themed Battle Royale, or maybe even dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs if you haven't worked that out yet. Even mods with planes and helicopters. The point is, in 12 months, the availability of different modes, weapons, vehicle, even full maps could be a world away from where we are now, if of course it all goes to plan. What about a nighttime mode as well? Perhaps weapons with flashlights, even night visions as a rare drop in loot crates. That could make for some interesting gameplay opportunities. I'm not thinking like Armor or DayZ style nighttime where it's completely pitch black and woeful, but more like Battlefield style where it's got that dark bluey tint to it, so you still have some visibility in the area around you, but if you're clever you can conceal yourself in a dark area. I fully expect PUBG to be out on both consoles in a year's time too. Right now the plan is only for Xbox, and I think by the end of the year or perhaps early next year, Xbox will be released. Around 6 to 9 months after that, I'm guessing that the PlayStation version will also be released. It's such a big market that they'll want to tap into. I think it will be impossible to hold on to it just on Xbox. It really just depends on how much exclusivity Xbox have managed to get. Could that mean cross-platform play though? I doubt it, especially considering from what I understand on Xbox the game probably won't even run at 60 FPS, looking at more along the lines of 30 with the current graphical fidelity and player numbers. And PUBG is definitely a game where you'll be at a huge advantage using a mouse over a controller. It just wouldn't be fair to mix those players together. How about this? Something a bit more obvious. Customization. We all know how popular weapon skins have been in CSGO and games like Overwatch. Imagine how huge they could go in PUBG considering what's already happened to the player customization with the clothes in the crates. I expect down the line there'll be a wealth of customization in this game. My only hope though is that they fit it in line with how the game looks and they stick with the aesthetic. I personally don't really like particularly loud and garish weapon skins. Some of the H1Z1 skins, for example, are not really my cup of tea. I don't want to be walking around with a pink M4, for example. We already know there's player customization, so I expect that to be extended as well. Desirable weapon skins in PUBG is definitely going to happen in my opinion. I also expect that on top of this they're going to extend their customization in PUBG with streamers and YouTubers. I think it just makes sense. In an earlier build of the game they had streamer graffiti around the map, and I think that this will make its way back into the game. You know, perhaps you could even have streamer branded clothing or a frying pan with the Jack Frags logo on, as an example. I think there's a lot of opportunities there that they will want to take advantage of. So there we have it, guys. Those are my predictions for what PUBG will look like as a whole in 12 months time from now. Do you think I'm going to be correct with some of these assumptions, or am I way off the mark? Let me know down in the comments below what you think the game is going to look like in 12 months time. And what are your most requested features and wants for the game? What do you think could really improve PUBG as a whole? Thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate your viewership and support. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one.